What Bible study is mentioned 12 times in one book of the Bible, was given on 7 different occasions by 7 different people, and is hardly ever given today? What Bible study was mentioned 12 times in one book by 7 different people that's rarely given today? That's the question, gang. I see a lot of puzzled looks on your face. The answer is presenting Jesus as the Messiah of Israel entirely from the Old Testament. How many of you could sit down with a Jewish friend and present Jesus to your Jewish friend entirely from the Old Testament? I don't see many hands up. I see maybe 1 or 2. It was presented by Peter, Stephen, Philip, Paul, Apollos, Aquila, and Priscilla in the book of Acts. In fact, that's 7 people, 12 occasions. And Peter's first sermon, Peter's second sermon, Stephen before the Sanhedrin, Philip and the Ethiopian treasurer, Saul preached that way at Damascus, Peter's sermon to the Gentiles, Paul's sermon at Antioch, Paul at Thessalonica, Paul at Corinth, Apollos, Aquila, and Priscilla at Ephesus and Corinth, and Paul preaches to Agrippa, and then Paul, of course, at Rome. It's interesting, by the way, to notice that never did Paul or Peter preach without mentioning the resurrection of Christ. It's a very interesting observation when we went through Acts the last time. It was interesting how they never let that go by. Even when they're defending themselves against the authorities, he would always rub their nose in it, that the one that you killed that's risen from the dead. Now, Jesus adds 2 to this, so we now have at the Emmaus Road and in the upper room, so where he presented himself from the Old Testament, so that Jesus is 8th, meaning a new beginning, and that makes 14, which is obviously a provocative. Any multiple of 7 seems to emerge here. Now, of course, it all starts in a sense at the seed of the woman commitment in Genesis 3:15, where God declares, after being confronted with the sin of Adam and Eve, he announces a plan of redemption that will be dependent upon the seed of a woman. That's a contradiction in biology. The seed comes from the man. But that's one of the titles of the Messiah. And she thus was the mother of all living, not just because she's the mother of all living from the flesh, but she's also the mother of the means by which all flesh would gain life.